Shalom. I like to say all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem HaKadosh. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of GMS, who are the true leaders of Israel today. And the salutations to my Akim, who do this work in truth and sincerity, who are risking their lives and their freedoms to do so, as well as the scattered Israelites who come looking like the heathen but are not, by way of their forefathers' seeds who are Israelite men. In the true name of the Most High is Yahweh, and his son's name is Yahushai, and the Lord's holy chosen people are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as well as the ones who suffer under the curses in the book of Deuteronomy. This is Ibrahim Akalia from the GMS Jamaica Kingston camp, and this video is about biblical prophecy regarding the missiles and the destruction of America, which is known as Mystery Babylon the Great in Revelation chapter 17. I'm going to start off with this scripture in Isaiah chapter 54 and verse 16. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work, and I have created the waster to destroy. So that waster to destroy is going to be those ICBM missiles, which they've already been created. All right, they're going to waste away America and destroy America. And so we have this video from Arrows of Indignation 144, which those arrows are talking about the missiles as well. China testing hypersonic nuclear missiles that went around the world successfully. All right, and of course, this is important because all of these ICBM missiles are going to be shot from different places around the world, all towards America. So the technology is there where the nuclear missiles can literally do as such. So it shows us that we are closer to the time of the end. But of course, before World War III and the destruction of America, the mark of the beast prophecy has to be fulfilled, which is that microchip. So let's watch the video.
President Xi warned President Biden, U.S. support for Taiwan would be like playing with fire. Behind the rhetoric is a Chinese military buildup which includes hypersonic weapons that can travel more than 5 times the speed of sound. They tested one last summer that literally went around the world.
That's a very significant capability that has the potential to change a lot of things. So we have to be very concerned about that.
Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General John Hyten, the number 2 person in the U.S. military, described the test in an exclusive interview with CBS News.
They launched a long-range missile. It went around the world, dropped off a hypersonic glide vehicle that glided all the way back to China. That impacted a target in China.
Hit the target.
Close enough.
Unlike a ballistic missile, which travels in a predictable arc, a hypersonic weapon maneuvers much closer to the Earth, making it harder for radars to see. Combined with hundreds of new missile silos China is building, Hyten believes the Chinese are developing the capability to launch a surprise nuclear attack on the U.S.
Why are they building all of this capability? They look like a first-use weapon. That's what those weapons look like to me.
The U.S. is developing its own hypersonic weapons, but not as rapidly. Hyten said that in the last 5 years, China has carried out hundreds of hypersonic tests, while the U.S. has conducted just 9. Nora?
A very enlightening interview, David Martin. Thank you.
All right, so you heard it, man. This is Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 1. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me a destroying wind. Now, did a destroying wind hit ancient Babylon? No. So it has to be talking about a different Babylon, and that different Babylon that it's talking about is America, which is Mystery Babylon the Great. Okay? And will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her and empty her land, for in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about. So this is referring to the same missiles, man. Against him that bendeth, like the archer bend his bow, and against him that lifteth himself up in his brigandine. And spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her hosts. So it says, destroy ye utterly all her hosts. How can that be done? That can't be done by your regular bow and arrows that are made with whatever little material. No. Alright, it has to be talking about something else, and it's talking about those missiles, man, that will destroy it utterly. How would something be destroyed utterly? By thermonuclear fire, which is what it shall bring. Thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans, and they that are thrust through in her streets. Okay, so the land of Chaldeans is referring to America, all right, and the Edomites are referred to as those Chaldeans. Okay, it also says right here, verse 7, Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, her ways, her philosophies, her democracy. Okay, therefore the nations are mad, right? They hate it, man, because they had to forsake their own ways to benefit off of it. And they've seen how destructive the ways of the Edomites ultimately, because it is their kingdom, America is their kingdom, the American empire. All right, they're in rulership. All right, so these so-called white people. All right, these nations have seen how it hasn't been profitable unto them, man, so they're mad. All right, and they want to try to take over the power seat, but no nation is going to take over that power seat except for the nation of Israel. Okay, it says, where's the part that I wanted? Verse 11, skip to verse 11. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord Yahweh hath raised up the spirits of the kings of the Medes, which is referring to the Russians, for his devices against Babylon, America, to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord Yahweh, the vengeance of his temple, right? So the Russians are also going to take part in it, and the Russians, Ezekiel 38, and their allies, which includes Iran, okay, and those so-called African nations as well, and Turkey as well, are all going to take part of it in it. And then in Revelation chapter 17, verse 16, it lets us know that, let me just get it. And the 10 horns, which is the European Union, which thou sawest upon the beast, which is NATO, Revelation 17, verse 16, these shall hate the whore, which is America, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So America's allies, NATO and the EU, they're going to turn against her, and they're going to destroy her as well. All right, they're going to shoot missiles at her as well, man. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, Revelation 17, it says, and verse 5, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth, which is America. Okay, so America, when it's destroyed by that thermonuclear fire, that's when the children, the elect of the nation of Israel, shall be delivered. This is Matthew chapter 24 and verse 29, immediately after the tribulation of those days. What days is it talking about? The time of Jacob's trouble, which that MOTB, which is the marriage chip, is going to be ushered in during those times. The famine is going to also be there. The persecution of the elect, starting with the servants of Yahweh, Shemishai, all those things, man. Jacob's trouble. Shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven. And the stars it's referring to are those missiles, because when they're coming down from the atmosphere, they're going to look like stars at first until they hit the ground. And the powers of the heavens shall be shaken, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, Yahushai, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man, Yahushai, coming in the clouds, which are the chariots, the so-called UFOs of heaven, with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. All right, so it is at that moment in time when America is being destroyed that Yahushua shall return and deliver the elect of the nation of Israel. But there's a bonus to that as well. In Second Esdras chapter 13, it lets us know that Yahushua is going to take part in that destruction as well. Okay, upon America. Second Esdras chapter 13 and verse 1. And it came to pass after 7 days I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, and it moved all the waves therefore thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong, and the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, this is talking about Yahushai, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it feels the fire, right? Because Yahushua is returning with an innumerable amount of chariots, and the chariots are going to be shooting, as you people know it, the UFOs are going to shoot lasers. It's really going to happen. All right. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew up upon it, right? Because Esau is going to attempt to even go against Yahushai. That's just a part of biblical prophecy, even though it's futile. But I would have seen the region or a place where out the hill was graven, and I could not, right? Because the great mountain is going to be that fathership, the huge chariot that Yahushua is going to be upon, right? That you won't be able to see the end of, because it's going to be so big. That's why the moon is going to be darkened and all these things, all right? Because not only because of the missiles that are going to I don't even know the word cloud. I don't even know if cloud is the right word, but it's going to like kind of eclipse, because of the amount of them. So that's what people will be seeing. But then also the huge chariot is going to be blocking out the light given from the signs in the heavens, which is like the moon and the sun and the stars, like the actual stars. And it says, and after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight, right? So that's Esau trying to fight against Yahushua. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. All right, so that's what's going to happen, man. Yahushua is going to take part in that destruction of America by way of fire, and he's going to be delivering the elect at the same time. All right, so that I'd like to say all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Hashem Yeshai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kodesh, Wa'abad Babal, Shalom.